Austria-Hungary before World War I was a state dominated by its massive internal political and ethnic divisions, although by 1914 it had undergone an industrial expansion. The once feudal empire had experienced the process of modernization. But only 4 years later, this empire was dissolved because of the external pressures of war and internal unrest. Kanye West is one of the most critically lauded artists of the 21st century, so naturally one comes to wonder, could Kanye West, if he were hypothetically given power in the Austro-Hungarian government, save the empire from total and complete collapse?
Yo, Wilhelm II.
I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish.
But Franz Joseph I had one of the best reigns of all time.
For the purposes of our scenario, we're going to take Kanye as he was September 12th, 2007, the day after releasing his third studio album, Graduation. We're also going to assume that Kanye isn't allowed to stuff his pockets with 21st century military technology. Instead, we're going to assume that all he brings with him to 1914 is his album Graduation and maybe a couple hundred CD players with enough battery life for the war. Everything else leading up to the conflict plays out the same as it did in our timeline. And Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia 1 month after Franz Ferdinand is assassinated. And now that the rules and the context is laid out, we can use historical analysis to see if Kanye can impact the timeline. Before he can try to save Austria-Hungary, Kanye's main challenge would be just communicating with people, because he doesn't speak any one of the 14 official languages of Austria-Hungary. Even if we're generous and interpret this line from Graduation literally, where he says, "I shop so much I can speak Italian," he's still going to have an extremely hard time commanding troops or organizing the government. And he's also a black man in a time when people of color were subjected to a world of European empires, propagating ideas of racial hierarchy. So, despite the fact that I found this picture of a black Austrian soldier, he'd still probably be discriminated against by those around him. So at the outset of the war, Kanye would be too busy dealing with these first problems to meaningfully help in the initial fighting. And just like in real life, the first Austro-Hungarian campaign into Serbia would end as an embarrassing failure for the Central Powers. It's a similar story in the East, as the Russians would successfully occupy Galicia just like they did in real life. But still, with time, I'm sure government officials could find enough English speakers, and I think that while Kanye would face discrimination, as his music is exposed to the diverse troops of the empire, they would gradually come to accept him as one of their own. His diverse discography of music would not only provide a morale boost, but it could actually act as a unifying force, bringing together the many different ethnicities fighting in the empire. With his newfound support and music acting as a rallying point, Kanye proves to the world that the new and improved Austro-Hungarian troops are a force to be reckoned with, and he leads them to a swift victory in Serbia in early 1915, innovating with ping-pong artillery tactics, destroying the Serbian military while suffering minimal losses. This sudden victory would shock the world, and it would inspire Italy to join the conflict on the side of the Central Powers. This would leave Kanye time to get prepared to organize a counteroffensive on the Eastern Front. By 1916, Kanye reveals his brand new combat Yeezy boots, which act also as music players for the soldiers on the Eastern Front, and his initial counteroffensive into Russia breaks through the defensive lines, allowing Austria-Hungary to reach as far as Ukraine and Belarus. However, as the months of 1916 drag on, the offensive slows down, initially because of logistical problems, but it also becomes clear that the new Yeezy boots have many design flaws and clearly weren't made considering the Russian weather. Many troops would die of frostbite, and the new music being released to the soldiers playing on the Yeezy boots is unfinished, and it's not as good as his old projects, resulting in morale debuffs across the whole army. Many go on to say that they miss the old Kanye. As a result from this negative feedback, Kanye went on to suffer multiple manic episodes towards the end of the year.
They motherfucking made the Twix double the size trying to make us fat.
During which he changed his name to Ye, where he was then hospitalized by the Austro-Hungarian state, putting him out of action and command. 1917 began with turmoil as the people of Austria-Hungary received pigeon carrier and telegram messages from the former commander Kanye, now known as Ye, saying, quote, "I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on the Hungarians and the Habsburgs." This treasonous statement sent shockwaves across the empire, as Kanye was immediately put under arrest, his assets were taken from him, and he was removed from the Austro-Hungarian government. Meanwhile, on the front line, the Austro-Hungarian army was suffering massive losses dealt to it by the Russian military, who was pushing into Austro-Hungarian territory by the end of the year. During the midst of this meltdown, Kanye somehow went on live radio and announced his intentions to be elected as the new emperor of Austria-Hungary in 1918. After announcing his campaign, Kanye randomly decided to give a shout-out to a German soldier who received an Iron Cross for delivering messages to the Western Front. This is the audio that circulated shortly after.
I see good things about Hitler also. The Jew, I love everyone. I'm done with the classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table. Especially Hitler.
After receiving such great endorsement by his favorite Austro-Hungarian hip-hop artist, Adolf Hitler vowed to gain power to support Ye. Shortly after, he launched a rebellion against the Kaiser and successfully took control of Germany, declaring his national Kanye fan German Workers' Party. Meanwhile, in Austria-Hungary, where once his music had unified the many different ethnicities of the empire, by 1918, his controversial comments and conduct had brought more division than ever. It was so bad that Italy switched sides again and massive mutinies began to spread across the country. With the death of Franz Joseph and the military facing collapse, the government of Austria-Hungary agrees to an unconditional surrender, where their lands go on to become partitioned. While Kanye may have failed in this scenario to save Austria-Hungary, that German soldier who Ye gave a shout out to grew up to be Elon Musk, and he vows to avenge his favorite artist one day in the future, announcing an upcoming sequel to the Great War.